What's up, everybody? I'm Apollo, your host of Late Great Game Reviews, and for this week, we're going to be reviewing Resident Evil Revelations. It was originally it came out in 2012, originally for the 3DS. It was ported to the PS3. I played it on the PS3. Obviously, it was developed by Capcom. It got really good reviews when it first came out. I've been wanting to play it for a long time. Finally, I was able to, and it did not disappoint. Honestly, it is the best Resident Evil. It's the best Resident Evil game in many years. It's way better than the horribly done Resident Evil 6, and it's actually, in my opinion, on par with Resident Evil 5. So let's get into it. The game takes place between Resident Evil 4 and 5. So it's after the events of Leon S. Kennedy with the Las Plagas incident, but it's before the events in Resident Evil 5, and also before Jill, Chris and Jill encounter Wesker, and Jill gets captured, and all that stuff. So it takes place between 4 and 5 essentially. There's essentially this story kicks off with this event in this place called Terra Grigia, which is supposed to be this innovative sort of uh, almost utopian city that they're trying to create. It gets hit by a viral bomb essentially by this terrorist group Veltro, and it just causes a bunch of mayhem, and it basically becomes the new setting for a new sort of Raccoon City type thing, which you're able to see through flashbacks. You're able to actually go through, like, interlace through the main story, which is actually about it. The game really belongs to Jill Valentine. Well, the game's one of the series' main protagonists, and Chris Redfield's in it as well. They're the main two characters, but it really belongs to Jill. And you're essentially sent in to investigate some incidents that have been happening. The main setting of the game takes place actually on a ship, which is perfect because you get back to the classic narrow corridors and claustrophobic sort of hallways where you don't know what's around each corner and you don't have a lot of space, and it's actually quite nice, quite refreshing. Really gets Resident Evil back to its roots. Um, and you have it's a perfect with the ship. It's a ship, so it sways, and the is constantly moving, and it creaks and groans, and you're not sure if it's the monsters or if it's the ship, and sometimes it's one or the other, sometimes it's both. And speaking of monsters, there are no sort of typical Resident Evil zombies in this one. They're not slow moving nor the fast moving ones. They're actually a new form that is created by the T Abyss virus, which is the main virus in this game. Um, and they're the ooze monsters. So they can move through vents in sort of liquid form, come out, and solidify right in front of you, which they do, and they are a good substitute for the zombies. I didn't miss the zombies at all during this, and they got a good variety of different enemy types without it ever feeling gimmicky. There's a good variety of them, but there's not like such a variety of them that it's kind of like, okay, I've had enough. The boss fights are, again, this originally came out for the 3DS, so the fact that it was ported to the PS3 and is so well done is actually really, really impressive. Like, honestly, the graphics are really, really good. It's a really well done port. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, sometimes sometimes the environments are crisp and pristine, while other times they're bland and blocky. Um, but still, the cutscenes look really, really well done, like console quality. This could have easily been a console game. It took me about 12 hours to beat. Um, the character models aren't great. I mean, Jill and Chris have the best two character models. They look pretty damn good. Um, and even some of the AI partners, like Parker, who's a new character, as well as Jessica, who's another new character. Character designs aren't bad either. Everyone else character design is pretty much shit, honestly. They look stiff. They have stiff movement and all that stuff. The dialogue in the game is also has reached an all new level of hamminess, and we're talking, like it's the voice acting's pretty good for the most part, but the dialogue itself is just honestly, it's kind of on the same level as Master of Unlocking, and or no, it's worse than how am I gonna put this? Let's see, it's worse than the dialogue is worse than the classic Master of Unlocking line from the original Resident Evil, but at the same time, it's on par with the classic Jill Sandwich line. Any Resident Evil fan will get what I mean by that. So yeah, the dialogue reaches kind of a new level of hamminess, and it's really ridiculous. The setting is great. All that stuff is great. They got in this one you pick up the green plant, which is the herbs, and that it's a sort of this time around. And there's no red herbs. There's no mixing. There's no combining. It's really just one herb heals all. You pick it up, you press one button, and you're instantly healed, which is nice. The game, you also surprisingly, I was really surprised when I played through because there's actually quite a lot of swimming in the game, which is definitely new to this series. And the swimming mechanic is it's really simple, but it's really well done. You press one button to dive, and you just move around like you would normally move around with the joystick, and the swimming is really well done. It's actually quite fun. It's a nice addition to the series. Let's see. I got a few more other things to. Oh, the AI partners are terrible. With Jill there's Parker, and with Chris there's Jessica, and then you switch and all this stuff. But the AI partners are terrible. They try to cover you sometimes, and sometimes they're successful, while other times they're just terrible. There's some frame rate issues as well, and especially in the beginning and middle of the game, but nothing. I mean, nothing nothing that'll disrupt the experience. And I noticed that halfway through the game, it started getting the frame rate issues were less and less, and by the time it was 75% through the game, they were essentially gone altogether. I think I was gonna touch on the boss fights, which the boss fights are considering this is a port from 3DS to PS3. The boss fights are not too damn bad at all for a 3DS game originally, but if you just look at it through the entire scope now that it's on the PS3, the boss fights are pretty bad. They're really tedious. Instead of sort of the normal Resident Evil, you sort of you tactically figure out the enemy's weak spot, the main bosses or the boss's weak spot. Which it's never too hard to find, but in this one it's not hard to find either. But instead of finding the weak spot and then tactically going in, hitting him hard 5-6 times, and then having the boss go down, instead this time it's there's no tactics involved, which makes it easier. But what makes it more annoying is that those fights get really, really tedious. There's not too many boss fights in the game, but when they come, I kind of dreaded them, simply because you have to hit the bosses. Some of the bosses, 2 or 3 of the bosses, you have to hit, a lot. We're talking 20 or 30 hits to take the boss down. 20 or 30, critical, what you see the yellow glowing orb, and you have to hit that 20 times, and it gets really tedious, and that was pretty annoying. But there's not too many boss fights, luckily, so that's good. Let me see my notes quick, see if there's anything else I want to touch on. Yeah, you got some cool gadgets and such. One other sort of gripe that I had was the map. Maps in Resident Evil are never great, but they're especially as the series has grown, they've gotten slightly better. But the map in Revelations is awful. It's awful. There's not even an arrow to represent you. You're just a dot, so you have no idea which direction to go. I got lost many times. And another thing is that